Hi guys, this is our first video for our new YouTube channel for the Cybercraft Media Manufactory. We are going to show you the new concept of a grid view for the backend, which means a layoutable backend, which is, I guess, what most of you always wanted to get. This has been developed by Team 1 at the TYPO3 User Experience Week last year, and I will show you how this will be working, hopefully in TYPO3 version 4.4, where it will be available as a system extension. Currently it's just an extension which will be available in the TER soon, so just go and have a look, and I will show you how it will be working. So first, you go to the default TYPO3 4.3.2 backend. When we go to the page view, you will see just the columns, the quick edit languages, and page information, and that's it. So what we have to do first is we go to the extension manager, install the modern backend extension, and since we already did that before, there are some new tables and new fields which have been installed in the database. There's the table TX modernbe layouts, just containing the grids that will be available later on, and we have a pages table where we will find the BE layout field that will be used for the database relations to the backend grid view records. And when we go to the page view now, you will see that we get a new layout view, a columns view, and as you can see, there's not much difference between these two because we have already the same columns here, and this is due to the fact that there is no grid available yet for this page. In fact, there is no grid available at any page because it doesn't matter where you put these grids on. You can put them in a container or wherever you like, and then you can assign them to the pages. So what we have to do first is we have to create a new backend layout. Just call it layout 1. And then we can go to the grid wizard. I'll just move it a bit down so that you can see the whole so-called grid. The first thing you will see is just a simple square, which is not a real grid, of course. So what we do is we add some columns, some rows, and then we can combine the existing squares of the new grid. And as you can see, this is a kind of layout that might be available for the front end or might be useful for the front end. So we just save this now. I have to save this record again so that you can see what has happened to the text area, because the grid editor is just saving all the data in a tsconfig-like language, and this is now saved. But before we save, we just attach an icon to the grid view. In this case, it should look like that. And now when we save it, we can assign it to our page. We can do that in the backend layout switch, which is directly beside the layout switch, because this is the front end layout, this is a backend layout. Of course, these two can be put together when we attach, for example, an HTML template, which could be corresponding to the backend layout we are using here. So now we selected the layout, and as you already saw in the first screen, because I already had installed that before, now we have this grid view available. We can just use the different fields of the grid exactly the same way as we used the columns before. We can put in different content elements and give them the usual content. And even if we might have done something wrong, we can, for example, move the content elements between the different columns. We have, for example, this one here should be moved to another column, and as you can see, we have a drag and drop functionality here. So if you drag the item, you can drop it in any of the orange colored drop zones. And I want to drop it here now. And as you can see, this is saved directly. You may say this is something I have already seen with Templar Voila, but in fact this is something completely different, because we don't need any XML structure. We just need a record which is telling the page how to behave in the backend. And we are still using all the original stuff you know from the page module. We are using, for example, the colpos field, the sorting field, and the behavior is exactly the same as in the default page module. The only thing that has changed due to the backend layout record is the layout of the backend. The structure and the behavior is still the same. So you can work with a default type of script. You can use the sorting field. You can use whatever you like without any restrictions, and you have real database connections or relations between the records, and not the comma-separated values that you will find in the XML structures of Templar Voila. So this is much more performant, this is much more easier to handle, and you will get a much better result within less time. So I guess this will be the way to go for the future. What you see is we have the same thing as you already have seen in Templar Voila as well. We have the unused column elements. This is, for example, when you have used columns before in another grid and this column is not available anymore, then you will see it here, and the elements will be seen here as well. So you can change the behavior of the page, or maybe just move the elements into columns you are currently using. And of course, when you translate a page, just have to check if there's already a language available. Not yet, but we will do it now. And as you can see, we can copy the default content elements as usual. And now we go back to the layout view, and we can change the languages easily. So for each language, you get the correct backend layout. And of course, it will be possible to change stuff in the overlay table as well, which is something you have to activate in the install tool. But then you will be able to have even different backend layouts for the different languages, because it might happen that you have another layout for another language side, because in this language people are offered a completely different design due to cultural difference or other stuff that might be the reason for having different designs in different languages. And as you can see, this is all handled the same way as the page module, so I think it is a very easy way to get a layoutable backend, and I think this is enough for now. We have to improve some of this stuff we have already available in this extension, but then it will be available soon in the TER, and after that it might become a system extension in Type 3 for 4 or maybe just for 5. It depends on how quickly we will be able to adopt the stuff we have in the extension now. So thanks for listening, and happy backend layouting.